by 302 Sports. Our special guest picker this week is Brandon Bossert, 47 ABC Sports Director. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Benny. Really glad that you and Trey had me on here this week.
Good. So we're going to start right off the bat. You got Marty Sheehan ahead of you. He's 6-1, but he's got a game hanging out there, as we all do, with that DMA Howard game. We're going to have to wait for a conclusion. So one loss is what you're looking to beat here. So we're going to start off a game you're probably a little bit familiar with, the Delaware Wildcats right there in your backyard. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. It's got a little bit of everything. Two schools, extreme ends of the state. Of course, Delaware's so big, they straddle two states, right? Private versus public, two storied small school programs. The Quakers, they'll be going into this one, into one of the toughest places to play in the state.
That's right.
Friday night starts a new era as Robbie Tashaw's going to take over from his father, who's been there for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
These two had a thriller in the Class A playoffs, AA playoffs last year. Friends winning at 21-20. This time they play in Delmar. Those stands so close to the field, they feel like they're right on top of you. The Wildcat fans will be there ready to go. I know people are going to think I'm crazy. I'm going to go with the Quakers in Delmar.
I mean, that's
off their 2022 season. Brandon, how about you?
It's going to be hard for me to pick against Delmar, considering that Friends has to come down here into that environment. But Delmar has a lot of new players in their starting lineup this year, as Coach Hearn was telling me. And obviously, Friends is one of the most well-coached teams in the entire state under the Tattersall family. So that's a tough one to pick. I'm going to go Delmar 21-20. They're going to pay him back.
All righty. Trey Mitchell.
Yeah, so, the Wildcats, they have a bunch of new stars in their line. They graduated 12 seniors, including their running backs Trent Kemp and Jalen Warner. But I think the point you made, Dad, about that packed Delmar Stadium, I think both programs are just extremely well coached, as we've seen over the years. So I think both programs just reload, after they graduate senior classes. So I'm going to go with the home field advantage and go Wildcats.
Guys, I'll leave
Can
you
I just
hanging
add
out there.
in one more thing here?
Yeah, sure.
I remember Delmar and Friends also played at the very beginning of last year. Delmar had, honestly, a pitiful performance up there, and Friends lost 28-0, I believe, only had a few first downs. So this might be another case where Delmar starts off slower and then builds momentum as the season goes along.
Sounds good. Guys, leave me out there with the rabid Wildcat fans. So leave me alone picking against Delmar. But that's all right. Let's move up to Friday night kickoff, 7 o'clock. Red Lion at now number 2 St. Mark's in our Delaware Live poll. With realignment, will this game become the new Holy War? Is it going to take the place of the Sally St. Mark's game? The Spartans enrollment has been back up. Last week they opened the season with a big win over Appoquinimink. Red Lion's growing as well. They're becoming competitive in all of their athletic programs. As the Lions' schedule wasn't tough enough playing in District 3, which I think is the toughest division in AA, they added St. Mark's to week 1. St. Mark's, they've reloaded, and they bring a big, strong offensive line in this season. I'm going with the St. Mark's Spartans here.
It's going to be hard to pick against St. Mark's coming in to this game. I think that Red Lion is building a good program up there, but in terms of talent-wise and coaching, I'm going to go with St. Mark's in this one.
Yes, I like St. Mark's as well. Their quarterback, Chase Padalano, had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown last week. So a good start to the season. I think St. Mark's keeps rolling.
All right, let's move to Friday night, 7 o'clock. One rule for this pick, you can't just say Bulldogs. It's the battle of the bone for the bone. I'm sorry, what's that?
The battle of the bone, that's right.
Battle of the bone. And Laurel, number 1 Laurel, they've been ranked number 1 since week 1 of last season. This is the first of 4 games where Laurel's going to play up in the 2A class. This was a scoreless game at the half last year up in Wilmington, and then the 2 offenses let loose. Javier Waite's going for Laurel this year, but Kristen Wright, it returns for Brandywine. He had a big game last season. Those 2 were big in last year's game. How does Brandywine crowd travel? I think that's going to be key because that home Laurel crowd's going to be there. They're going to be barking. The bone's going to stay in Laurel when these 2 Bulldogs battle.
Yeah, you know what? I picked against Laurel last week when they played Sussex Tech, and I was wrong. They won 31-7 in that game, and they looked dominant. They looked even better this year than they did last year. That running game is lethal, and Caden Shockley can do it not only with his arm, but also on the ground. I got Laurel by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Mitchell.
Laurel at home is tough. That running game with Khalees Wilson and Patrick Bell is tough, and that defense is tough. I like Laurel.
All right, so we all go Laurel there. Friday night over in Maryland and Arundel. This is Arundel's second Delaware opponent in back-to-back weeks. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff. Number 2 Smyrna takes on Arundel. Arundel gets back-to-back weeks with some 302 teams here, but the area fans over there are going to get a real treat when Smyrna Eagles come to town. Smyrna gets a big win here before heading into Middletown for the Harvest Bowl, where number 1 is going to see number 2, and that's going to be they're going to square off early in the season. I'm taking the Smyrna Eagles.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a good warm-up game for Smyrna heading into that Middletown game because, they have to replace Cam Edge at quarterback. They are now without Wayne Knight, but from what I hear is they like their quarterback, Brian Knight, that they have up there now, a senior quarterback that's been in the program for 4 years. Apparently, we're going to see a lot of earthquake from Smyrna this year with Ymir Knight, who is maybe the most lethal weapon in the entire state. I got Smyrna winning, and we'll see what happens next week with Middletown.
Yep, I gotta agree. I like Smyrna. They got Ymir Knight. They're gonna get the ball in his hands, and I see Smyrna getting this one.
Saturday morning, 10:30. It's going to be an early trip for the Lake Forest. The Lake Forest Spartans taking on Mount Pleasant. I'm going to start with, I think Lake Forest may be one of the most underrated teams in AA this year. We don't have them in the rankings yet, but I think we're going to find out Saturday what they got. First game of the season is for both teams, and it's one of these games where we know right now very little about who they are. But junior quarterback Jonathan Tyndall returns for his second full season as a starter. While the kid I like is Aiden Young, the sophomore, returns in the backfield. The Green Knights answer with running backs Jay Simmons and Demir Boyd. But both of these teams are looking to build off mediocre seasons, and they have the talent to do so. The Spartans were 5-5 last year in that tough 2A District 3. They play here, a play here and a play there, and maybe 3 of those losses were wins last year. But I like Lake Forest here in this game.
Yeah, the thing about Lake Forest last year was they had a lot of juniors who are now returning as seniors. One thing that Fred Johnson told us was that they were trying to instill more discipline and trying to get them to be able to finish stronger because obviously they had that 4-game losing streak down the stretch. I think that Lake Forest, led by Jonathan Tyndall, who I can't wait to see at quarterback this year because he really lit it up as a freshman, came back with a strong sophomore year. I expect Lake Forest to go up there and squeak out a win.
Yep, I agree with the Lake Forest pick. I agree with the Jonathan Tyndall. He's returning after a first-team All-District last season, over 1,000 yards passing. The one problem I could see for Lake Forest is Mount Pleasant has some size in their receiving game. Could give their secondary some problems, but I'm going to go Lake Forest as well.
Okay, 3 picks. Jonathan, he took over as a freshman, if you remember, in the Battle of the Bell, and they pulled off a big win there his freshman year. Now 2 years, going to his second full year as a starter. 11 a.m. Christiana in Newark. This is at Newark. This is a game I grew up with. As a little kid, I used to go to the Christiana Newark game every week 10. Some years it was on Thanksgiving, so it's a game I like to pick. I mean, I was back in the 70s, so I'm kind of showing my age here. How much have things changed the landscape of high school football in Delaware? What used to be a much anticipated game all year as a season ender is now the opener for both teams. Not far from each other. It's a 4-mile ride right through Overtown for the Vikings, looking for their first winning season in a long time. But it's going to start off with one in the L column as New York returns too much from their playoff team last year. I'm taking the Yellow Jackets.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm a Henlopen guy. I don't really know much about Christiana and Newark, but I'm going to go Newark because my wife is a graduate from there, class of 08. So go Yellow Jackets.
Former Yellow Jacket, Trey Mitchell.
We saw Damian Wright last year against Lake Forest. We know Newark's returning a lot as a playoff team. I'm gonna go with Newark.
I remember from the 70s watching his Christiana games with I-95 zooming by the one end zone. So one of these days I'm gonna get back up to one of those. Let's go to Saturday at noon. Number 5 Dover at Hodson. 2 years in a row, the Senators lose to Arundel on the last play of the game. Now they go on the road for a rare morning, early afternoon game. Hodgson, who lit the scoreboard up last week, 31-0 on Cesar Rodney. Frank Moffitt's farewell tour has started off well. I think he continues with another win over another Kent County team. I'm going to take Hodgson here.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much stock you can put into that Hodgson win against Cesar Rodney in week 1 or week 0, I should say. But Dover, they're a young squad coming back. I really like Jaquan Kilby in the backfield, but I'm not sure how much more, cohesive talent they have put together up there in Dover. I'm going to go ahead and take the home team in this one because I think that it's so close.
Trey?
Yeah, I mean, Hodgson definitely lit the scoreboard up last week. Feel bad for my riders.
Your riders, that's right.
That's a tough pill to swallow, but it happens. It's part of the game. It's part of life. But in Dover had just another close one last week, kind of like they did, similar to last year. I think Dover's offense is going to get done. I'm going to go Dover.
All right. So let's go to our Friday night game of the week here on Delaware Live. It's number 6 Salesiana versus number 3 Sussex Central. It's going to be a big one. Brandon, are you going to be at that one?
Someone's going to be at that one. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be at the Laurel game, actually.
Okay.
I believe Devin J. Martin will be there.
Okay. Well, Trey and I will be at the Sally's Sussex Central game. Salesiana goes on the road after a last-minute win over Cape and Lopin at home. Andrew Ransom scored the game winner last week in the closing minutes. He had 2 touchdowns in the game. Freshman quarterback Ryan Starr, he's going to face a much more experienced defense on Friday night this week. This is not a normal road game for the Sal's. It's a trip to the castle. Tough to get a win there. One of the toughest places, a lot like Delmar. It's a tough place to get a win. Over the last 10 years, the Gold Knights are 40-11 at home. Chris Shields and P.J. Henry bring a big, solid run game as well as some fierce defense. The Sal's handled their business twice against the Knights last year. One was a blowout. But that was last year. Sussex Central avenges those 2 losses on Friday night. I'm taking the Golden Knights.
Yeah, I'm going to go Central here too because I wasn't quite sure what we would see from Central going into this year, but they really impressed me against William Penn, especially the running of Patrick Henry, not only in the run game, but also in the pass game. The offensive line controlled the line of scrimmage, and Troy Morris looks like the real deal at quarterback as well, and that's something, another dimension. So I'm going to go with Central in this one by a touchdown.
So Sally's freshman quarterback, Ryan Stower. He definitely has a good arm. He can throw the ball well. He's got a game under his belt now. And if they eliminate some of those drop passes they had last week, Sally's definitely make this a game, make it interesting. But as I've learned over the years, Central is tough at the castle. They run the wing T year in and year out consistently well. And they can grind the clock. They can wear the clock down with their running game. And I've learned to take Central at home. I'm going Central.
Yeah, that's one of our rules, Brandon. Don't pick against Sussex Central in the castle. We've
I don't blame you guys whatsoever.
Absolutely. So, Brandon, looking at Delaware this year, obviously you've seen Laurel get chances, to see Central. And what do you like here? Some of the top teams in Sussex and Kent County.
Well, I just put out my top 5 for this week earlier today, and Woodbridge really disappointed me today with that loss to Cape Henlopen, but Cape is really opening some eyes in the first couple of weeks of the season. They're going to vault into my top 5 next week, but obviously right now I have Smyrna. Laurel, I think, is the clear number 1 in 1A. I think they might actually be better this year than they were last year, and more explosive. And then a few other teams, Lake Forest. Watch out for Lake Forest because I think they might make that jump with all that senior leadership coming in this year. We'll see what happens with Delmar. With Seaford, for me, I think with the Blue Jays, they have so much talent. There's so much young talent there. They've got a great quarterback with Kareem Bolden, but it's all mental for them. They got to keep their heads in the game. And if they can do that, they can, take that next step. And watch out for Indian River too, potentially, because they have a 70-man roster down there, and we'll see what Coach Townsend can do with them.
Yeah, we got to do Seaford last week, and you take out the penalties, but they still scored 41 against Colonel Richardson, and Colonel Richardson employed the wedge, kind of slowed things down and gave Seaford less opportunities with the ball, but when Seaford got the ball, they scored. So the Blue Jays, if they can clean some things up, they could be a handful in single A. So Brandon Bossert from 47 ABC, the sports director, I thank you for coming on, your picks. We'll see you around the sidelines these next few Friday nights.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, folks. That's Delaware Live Sports. There's your Pigskin picks. We'll see you next week with another guest picker.